Greetings, comrades, and welcome to the Eastern Border. Today we'll be continuing our series on the Russian prison culture. This time we'll be doing this from an instructive perspective as I gathered throughout my studies from Lurkmor, which you should know about since part 1. Today we'll be discussing the temporary detention isolator, the IVS, and the pre-trial detention center, or SHIZO, both abbreviations from Russian. Basically, these are the instructions as given on the Russian cultural internet about what to do and how to survive throughout this first early period of being put into this prison system. First of all, about the temporary detention isolator, the IVS, and the myths about pressing. Typically, operational officers, in slang, opera, or just, standard name for cops, will threaten you with being put into a special cell where you will be pressed. That is, subjected to abuse, humiliation, and beatings. Well, don't believe these rumors. There is simply no such pressing in the IVS. That comes later on, or if you're a political person, but I'm talking about the default people who go there for thefts and other things. The IVS holds people detained on suspicion, not to charges. They don't know yet whether they will be arrested or released. Everyone has their own concerns. It's only in bad movies that a novice, in slang, первоход, one on their first stretch, jailed for rape, is immediately beaten and sexually assaulted by the cellmates. That is a lie, because everyone's there on convictions. Now, political prisoners, again, this might be different, but we'll leave the political ones for another time. In the IVS, people are held for a very short period of time, usually up to 48 hours. They don't have time to form a collective and therefore cannot exert collective pressure. Novices, on their first sentence, these первоходцы, they're scared themselves. Those who have already served time, насиженные, literally well-seated ones, because we refer to this as sitting, won't start conflicts because in the SHIZO, what happens further on, they could end up in a correct cell and can be held accountable for lawlessness, or as called in slang, беспредел. So what are the rules of conduct in the SHIZO if arrested? Let's say something bad has happened and you've been arrested. Well then, first of all, get a grip of yourself. From this moment on, your behavior determines your standing in prison and in the penal colony. First of all, addressing others. Forget about general rules of etiquette. Address cellmates only using the formal version in Russian called "вы" or "you." If they address you informally, "ты," it should be similar to the Spanish thing or many other languages except English. There's the formal version and the informal version. You should always use the formal one here. And if they address you informally on "ты," then don't yell back, "Don't ты me." They will respond, "I haven't teed you yet," referring to sexual assault here. Obviously. Number 2, the staff, or the cops. With the staff, which are called menty or musari in the slang, on the contrary, you should be extremely polite even if you hear rudeness. Cops are people too. They don't have an inherent hatred for you. To tyrannize or bully you during an interrogation, they need to get themselves into the right state of mind. This task becomes much easier if you start being rude towards them. 3, social status. Your social status matters to the officers. A well-mannered person, even if simply dressed, looks more significant than a crude thug, in slang, urkogan, who is dressed in designer clothes, so-called upakovanный urkogan or packaged urkogan. 4, cellmates. Even if you're very tough and flashy, do not treat a poorly dressed, homeless-looking cellmate, a bomj, a slang name for hobos, with contempt. Right now, he may seem like a frightened livestock, but it could turn out that he's an authority, an influential figure in the prison terms, and in the SHIZO, his friends from previous terms will meet him. He'll sober up, clean up, change the clothes he was given or worn, and become a terrifying authority. If you end up in his cell after having insulted him earlier, and this was bolded, you will suffer greatly. The transfer from IVS to SHIZO. Well, you are now an arrested person. The main thing is not to panic. You should hide your nervousness. In slang, that would be mandraj, and don't break, get confused or freeze up. First of all, case info. Remember your article number. When you're transferred from the IVS to the SHIZO and the convoy guard asks, state the article number as clearly as your full name and date of birth. Don't think this is trivial. Half the prisoners, slang zeki, get lost, talk nonsense, or freeze up during the transfers. 2. Be careful with observations. Those arrested in the courtroom, who were previously on a signed promise not to leave, cannot correctly state their sentence term. Its start, end, and name. This irritates the convoy guards, which isn't the worst thing, but your cellmates, your neighbors in misfortune, are watching you. They draw their own conclusions. If they realize you are morally weak, they might start treating you badly. 3. Property. Upon leaving the IVS, when receiving all your confiscated belongings under an official record, do not sign the statement, "I have no claims," if anything is missing. If they are rude or hurry you, don't give in. Inform the head of the convoy. 4. Complain. Immediately upon the arrival at the shizo, write a complaint to the prosecutor that you're there, involuntary, and that you don't disagree with the sentence. 5. Staff. You don't need to prove your innocence to the prison staff. They don't care. To them, it's, as they call it, the lampochki, or, throughout their neck, or until the lamp in the ceiling. Then there's 6. Search examination. During a body search, if commanded to undress, do not cause a scene. They will twist and search you by force. That's the instruction. At the medical examination, it's pointless to protest when they take samples, including a swab from your anus. 7. Injuries. If you were beaten during detention or in the IVS, be sure to ask the doctors to document your injuries. Doctors dislike police officers and will never refuse. Afterward, write another complaint to the prosecutor. You won't prove much, but you'll certainly cause trouble for the officers, and you'll have a small trump card in court. Then shizo, quarantine, and transfers. After being temporarily transferred to the IVS for investigative actions, if the IVS is in the regional center and the crime was committed in the district, they won't hold you there for long. You will then be placed in the quarantine. Quarantine is not the permanent cell, but a temporary holding area. However, prison customs are already in effect there. Bedding is not issued. If possible, while still be able to communicate, e.g. in the shizo, you should use a phone call provided by the investigator or an attorney to ask relatives to bring you the following. 1. Warm clothes, even in summer. A blanket, bedding, slippers, socks and underwear, and a tracksuit. Toiletries, toilet paper, a towel, soap, a toothbrush and toothpaste, disposable razors. A spoon, a plate, and a mug, not glass. Nail clippers, a notebook, a pen, cigarettes, slang kureva, even if you don't smoke, tea, sweets, butter, garlic, and envelopes for letters. Have them bring this all in a convenient travel bag. Don't bring many luxurious clothes or food items immediately. You don't know yet what your standing will be or where you'll end up. Luxury can provoke envy among cellmates, and attempts to seize to ruin your things can happen. Take your time. Once you're settled in, then they can send you everything you need. So, first steps in the quarantine, or this upcoming cell. First of all, greetings. Upon entering quarantine, if there are other arrestees, greet them. Don't shake everyone's hand and don't say the flustered hello. Say confidently zdorova or zdarevenka. This is a casual hi. Do not add bratva, which means the brotherhood, the higher up castes, or muzhiki, or, the men, as there might be blatnie, or elite criminals, or cherti, outcasts, and also petuhi, the derogatory term for the lower caste, as I mentioned in the previous episode. If you mention certain specific castes, you're stuck to them, and you have called it them this way. And if you call them Здравствуйте, петухи, well, you're going to get beaten up horribly. Number 2, placement. Sometimes the beds, in slang nari or shotki, are taken. In a prison, number of occupants doesn't always match the number of beds. They're usually massively overcrowded. Don't loiter nervously in the doorway, move forward. Sit down at the table or next to a bunk. 3. Bags. Don't put your bag on the table or the bunk. Keep it by your feet. 4. Dropped items. If you drop something on the floor, assess the situation. If it's a pack of cigarettes and lands in a clean spot, make a joke. I.e., haha, this landed on a newspaper, and then pick it up. But if you pick up a cigarette near the parasha, the toilet, slop bucket, and put it in your mouth, you might get sent to the petushatnik, the area for the petuchs, the lower caste. Straight up, without exceptions. 5. Bunks. It's best to take an empty shkontka as far from the parasha, the spot of the latrine, as humanly possible. 6. Toilet use. Very important here. Pay attention. Toilet use. After a transfer, you'll often need to relieve yourself. After all, you have just been searched everywhere. Don't rush straight to the toilet. See what others do. Every cell, slang chata, has its own customs. In some of them, before relieving themselves, which is called apravka there, or, fixing themselves up, people must ask, is anyone eating? In others, only peeing is allowed inside there. In the third, defecating is also allowed. In others, you have to ask special permission. And in some others, you might actually get beaten for talking while at the toilet, because that associates everyone else with the toilet while you're still there. Then there are some other nuances. Don't be surprised when, instead of asking your name, they ask, what are you in for? Or, what's your article? It's important for the residents to know who are they dealing with, and what if you're a pedophile. First of all, the response. State the article number, but don't launch into a story about the case itself. In slang terms, that's called deluga. They are not allowed to question you further anyways, according to the Bratva laws. 2. Informers. If they persist, they're either an informer, stukach or rat, or a fool. Cut the questioning with the phrase, I'm refusing to talk, я в отказе, or why do you ask? А с какой целью интересуетесь? The second phrase will be important later on, maybe in the future episodes, maybe in this one, because you don't really ask anything there. In prison, to ask something means quite a different thing. You're literally asking, with what goal are you interested in this question? Very polite. Again, caution. Remember to be cautious. Remember, it's possible that someone is an agent, and someone over there has been sent to work specifically with you, so don't tell them anything else that they need to do. Then finally, you should go and be moved on to the penal colony. The stage. Etap means your trip from over there, from Shizo to the final colony. You'll only find out what awaits you, either violence, dubinka, or truncheon, or relative peace, chlieb, or bread, once you arrive at the zone, the penal colony. Starting anywhere new is hard, and your first day in the correctional colony is especially tough. First of all, the journey from the Shizo to the zone. The transfer, known as etap, or stage, often lasts several days. Long-distance transfer is performed with rail in a specialized car. You're crammed into a barred compartment, unable to properly use the toilet or sleep. You're given only a meager ration of bread, salted fish, usually herring, and some sugar. And then there's short-distance transfer from Shizo. When transferred by vehicle, an avtozak, things are not much better. You're roused at 5 a.m. and placed in a transit cell, a nakapitelь or stakan, that's a glass or heater. You're subjected to multiple searches, these shmons, by both Shizo staff and the convoy guards. You're not given a dry ration often, with staff claiming you don't deserve one, or that the trip is just too short. Since you're not registered to the zone, you might not be fed at all for 24 hours or even more. The avtozak, a specialized van, often a gaz or kamaz, is filled to capacity with people packed tightly into small cages and really nothing to hold on to. Upon arrival at the correctional facility, the etap, the group of new arrivals, is usually offloaded in an airlock, schluz, though sometimes the vehicle drives directly into the zone. First of all, you're going to fear intimidation. At first the guards, another slang for them is virtuchai, try to terrify the newcomers. They shout, threaten, and the atmosphere is bleak. Dogs bark, armed convoy guards and staff with truncheons are everywhere. Then there's the roll call. Guards shout orders, often using profanity. New arrivals are ordered to form ranks in groups of 5 or 2 lines of 6, which is often delayed by some inmates who intentionally break, move slowly, or feign confusion. Then there's personal data check. During the roll call, the duty officer calls out a name. The arrestee must break rank, run up to the officer, and clearly state their full name, date of birth, article number, sentence length, and start-end dates. This is explained by the receiving officer, but many, even repeat offenders, forget their own details, which is, well, a bad idea, and a nice little reminder for the prison guards to just mercilessly beat you up. After the roll call, the entire etap is lined up again and led to a search, or an obisk. Searching procedures are, well, the location and thoroughness of the search vary wildly. It could be a bathhouse, the headquarters, the quarantine building, or a separate room. Some searches are quick with just a glance into the bags, others are extremely invasive. Detainees are stripped naked, forced to squat, bend over, spread their buttocks, and open their mouths. It's a deeply uncomfortable and humiliating experience. Night arrivals. If the newcomers arrive late in the evening, they might be placed in an isolation cell, Shizo, once again, from the previous one, without any official transgression, simply so that staff can search them, take them to the doctor, and interview them the following day. And then there's yet another form of quarantine. New arrivals are typically sent to a quarantine area for up to 2 weeks. For the first 24 hours, there's total chaos. New arrivals are constantly summoned to different places, often several at once. You might not even have time to receive a mattress, sheets, and blankets. Supplies. After queuing and arguing with the supply clerk, Kapitor, who tries to issue old torn gear, you'll be given a numbered tag, a birka. This tag must be signed and immediately sewn onto your garment. You must do that yourself. Then there's some who always loudly refuse to wear the tag, the defiers, claiming it's beneath them, slang vpadlu. It's useless to argue that this is a requirement of the criminal code. Tags are worn even by those who oversee the zone, smatreshi. Those are the overseers who look over if all the bratva laws are obeyed there. Such defiance usually leads to a beating from the staff or the activists, if that's a red zone. Then there are the interviews and initial pressures. First of all, you'll be summoned for interviews with the operations officer, the oper. The offer. First of all, you are called into the office one by one and directly asked, are you straight in life? Meaning, are you willing to cooperate? They proposition you to work for them and become an informer. The door to the corridor is often left open, allowing other inmates waiting in line to hear the entire conversation. The colony chief may also speak to the entire group, explaining regulations and asking for questions. While waiting in these lines, a staff member, the naryadchik, will evaluate you for job suitability. The zone values electricians, machine operators, skilled laborers, artists, and carvers. In red zones, Krasnaya zone. In these colonies, where the administration holds power through collaboration with inmates, you may be immediately pressured to join the active, the group of cooperating inmates, by writing an application to join sections like discipline, order, leisure, sanitation. For an honorable arrestee, порядочный арестант, that is an honorable person who lives by these bratva laws, this is considered shameful, vpadlo. Those who refuse to sign are beaten by the staff or the activists themselves, but if you're in the bratva system, if you're this порядочный арестант, obviously you won't do any of these things. In the black zones, черные зоны, these colonies where criminal traditions hold large sway, joining one of these sections is fully voluntary, and, no one's going to force you to do that, but you might want to do this if you have, talked to bratva about this and have gotten, saying that you just want to be there for the first time ever. But we'll reach to those parts later on. In some colonies that are riddled with lawlessness, беспредел, uncontrolled lawlessness, new arrivals get no peace. There is night harassment. The cooperating inmates, slang kazli, literally billy goats or snitches, will summon and beat the new arrivals often at night. This is how the administration asserts its dominance. Then there's incitement. Before a large transfer, operative staff will instruct the heads of the inmate groups, tomorrow people are arriving from the shizo, where thieves in law rule. Show them who's in charge here. You can only cripple them, not kill them. Given this encouragement, activists feel complete impunity and humiliate the newcomers by beatings and other tortures. And then there's the test. Any thought that you can question or avenge this bespredel later is merely cold comfort for the weak. If you're silent during a beating or allow someone else to be beaten, you are automatically degraded and can never seek protection from the criminal authorities. The bullies know this. You must always stand up for yourself. In colonies where criminal traditions, the vorovskoy hod, this bratva, prevail, the situation is reversed. Activists are polite and fear the blatные. The smatrashi, the observer of the zone, sends care packages, padgon, to quarantine, cigarettes, tea, food, and even allows people to call their families using a prohibited cell phone. And then, the community. The overseer visits the group, asking his brothers, bratva, what they need, and what can be happening with this. So, this is very much important so that you're thinking that red zones are somehow better than the black ones. Oh, absolutely not. The black zones are, instead, the ones where people actually will treat you more humane. After the initial chaos ends, exhausted convicts go about their personal business, unpacking, setting up their bunks, asking veterans about the colony's rules, and washing clothes. Next day, of course, new arrivals are called to the doctor. The medical staff, who also wear uniforms, are widely distrusted and believed to work for the security staff. They don't treat illnesses. Instead, their job is just pure documentation. The dentist doesn't check your teeth for health, but to create a dental chart in case of your escape of death. The dentist will only pull teeth, with very weak local anesthesia. A young female doctor will perform the highly uncomfortable procedure of taking an anal swab, inserting a wire with cotton on the end of your anus. And, about medical complaints, you can talk as long as you want about your ailments. You will not be treated. At best, they will listen. At worst, they will cut you off and dismiss you. Of course, the beatings will follow. Then, there are work requirements. The section chiefs or deputy heads will constantly try to force new convicts into work details. Ход работы. By law, work is only required for 2 hours a week in quarantine, but they try to keep people working constantly. For those adhering to the criminal principles, blatные or порядочные, these people who work for these black methods, picking up a broom or shovel is shameful, zapadlo, and leads to an automatic loss of status. To make them stop asking you to clean the snow or sweep the streets, you often have to suffer, endure time in the shizo, punishment cell, or face threats and beatings from the activists. Few people can withstand this. An assignment. During quarantine, convicts are finally distributed to permanent sections based on their status, must, or sometimes simply at random. But all that's for another episode. Next time we'll be talking about surviving the cell itself and the first entry through these red zones to the very zone, about the jargon and rules, internal rules and security. This was just how you actually get to the zone first. As you can see, the process is brutal and harsh. But that's for next time. Remember, happiness is mandatory.